Bruchim Abayim, welcome. Thank you for coming. Today's class is dedicated by Dina Dornbush in memory of her dear grandmother, Dina Bat Mazal, in honor of her yahrzeit. Tehei Nishmasa Tzrura B'tzrer HaChaim, and may her soul be a source of love and light and inspiration for you and for your entire family and all of the Jewish people. La'arichas yamim v'shanim tovos, and thank you very much. Okay, we're holding page 3. Torah Or Bereishis, Torah Or Bereishis, page 3. The paragraph starts Vihine. In the Hebrew, it's Torah Or Bereishis, Dav Bais, column 1. Zayim Akadev. Bruchim Abayim.
He only lets me stay by him if I come to the shir.
Okay. Like Avram, you have to bench. It's cheaper than rent. I don't know if the shir is though. Mm-hmm.
By the way, I hear the shir from him every day. It's all just making.
Oh,
Yeah.
now we know who he is.
Gewaldig. Okay. Vihine. I hope everybody remembers the previous classes on the Maamar. If not, you can go back and listen to them. I think we did already 4, right? I think we had 4 classes. Vihine mebchinis rotzei hanal is hanisker la'el, or hanisbayer la'el. Vihine mebchinis rotzei hanisker la'el b'kriyas shema nasa shuv achar kach b'tfilah. After explaining at length the sugya, the theme of Ratzoi, the longing, the yearning, the true yearning, the authentic yearning of the soul, which he explained. This is what the word Eretz means. Why is it called Eretz? The earth is called Eretz, so the Medrash says, Sheratzasa lasas ritzayin kaina. Eretz comes from the word Ratz, and Ratzayin, yearning and running, longing, racing, which is the concept of a hachayis, Ratzoi v'shoiv, that the chayis, the angelic beings, Ratzoi are yearning and then they're returning. So it's particularly in Eretz, on earth, where there could be a sense of, where there is a sense of separateness, that you have the Ratzoi and you have a new deep longing, a yearning to overcome that gap, to cross that perceived barrier or that gulf and connect. And as he said, that this Ratzoi is essential to the soul, it's innate in the soul. But because it gets eclipsed, because of all of the different layers, when it comes down to earth, especially as it encloses itself in an animal soul and a body, it may not even know its own real Ratzoi. And then the Ratzoi may be diverted and exploited and taken into different places, even deviant places, meaning it's the wrong places, which are all substitutes, fake substitutes for the real Ratzoi, as explained at length. And he said the whole avodah of one of the main ideas of tefillah is to open the soul up to that, to open yourself up to the true nature of the soul, which is a Ratzoi, a yearning for dveikus. And as he said, and what type of Ratzoi? It's not just a Ratzoi for one level or another level. It's Ratzoi for atzmos, for the essence. Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechafatzti ba'aretz. Even earth or heaven, as he touched it, pnimim or makifim. Don't cut it. Ki b'cha aretz gedud, the belakaya dalig shur, the gedud and the shur, he explained it at length. Pnimim makifim. None of it can really distract what the Ratzoi is, which is to pure atzmos, to the pure core, to the pure essence and truth of everything. So now he continues from this Ratzoi in Ka'asher Hashamayim achar kach b'tfilah. So tefillah, which is Shemona Esrei, over here the focus is Shuv, primarily. As we said earlier, that the davening is structured in a way that till Shemona Esrei you talk about God. Shemona Esrei you talk about yourself. And yet Shemona Esrei is considered the peak of davening, the highest level. Till Shemona Esrei you're not talking about I need this. From Psukkah de Zimra on, it's all Haidul Hashem Kiri B'Shmoi, Baruch Shama V'Haya Olam. Gadol Hashem Amuhulul Ma'id, whatever, all the Psukkah de Zimra. Atu Hashem Alakim, Atzasas Levava. all the way to Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Shemona Esrei, I need wisdom, and I need parnasa, and I need forgiveness, and I need health, and I want everything you ask for. But that's considered the highlight of davening. It should be the opposite. So B'shprat is that the whole Ratzo is hachana for the Shuv. Right? That the whole Ratzo, when do you know that it's a real Ratzo? If it's a preparation. Without Ratzo, you can't get to Shuv. It's not returning, it's just, I'm there. The Ratzo is hachana, that's what he said earlier, the whole Ratzo is hachana for the Shuv. And the Shuv begins with Shemona Esrei, and then it continues after davening. Of course, even stronger, as he's going to say. So Shemona Esrei is the idea of returning, meaning it's embracing the reality of where I am. I'm saying Baruch Atah. The first time we turn to Hashem, we say Atah. The whole Shemona Esrei is built on Baruch Atah. As he puts it earlier on page 2, he said, Shemona Esrei is Amshachas Gili Elikus. When you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, Gili Seviv Kalam and Bevamal Kalam. So that's what he says here. And therefore, already at the end of Krishma, Messiah, you end it Ani Hashem Elokeichem. That's the end of Kriyat Shema. Ani Hashem Elokeichem asher tzei eschem eretz Mitzrayim lius lechem lelekim Ani Hashem Elokeichem. What does it mean Ani Hashem Elokeichem? I am Hashem, your God. Pirush Elokeichem mamish. Elokeichem means mamish Elokeichem. What's that? Mamish, not fake. Lius b'chinas gili elikus b'chol echad v'echad malmayla lemata lemehevei echad be'echad. Ani Hashem Elokeichem means that the truth of Hashem is your Elokeichem. It's your consciousness. It's your identity. That's pshat that Gili Elikus, the revelation of Elikus, is shaykh to be. It's capable of being in every single person. Malmayla, coming from a state which seems so high and transcendent, lamata, down to the person, lemehevei echad be'echad, to become one with one. And that's what Shuv is. Shuv means that right now, right here, in my body, in my animal soul, Ani Hashem could be Elokeichem. That's really your consciousness. That's the end of Kriyat Shema. And then comes Shemona Esrei, B'chai Birchan, and the 18 blessings. Nimshach Zeh HaGilui Or B'chinas Shuv Mamish B'chai Brachas. This Gilui Or, this revelation of light, is communicated in a way of Shuv, returning in the 18 blessings. Ba'amri, in each one you say, Baruch Atah Hashem, Mi Baruch La'ata B'gilui L'noichach Yadua. The word Ata is l'noichach. Noichach means it's in front of you, it's second person. If you're speaking about third person, you say who or he. In the masculine, it's who. In the feminine, it's he. When you say ata or at, it means you're right here. L'noichach. I can't say ata if you're not in front of me. If you're somewhere else, if you're in heaven, if you're concealed, I can't say ata. So ata means it's intimate. It's right here. It's direct. I don't have to run anywhere. You're right here. That's shuv. That the baruch is melashon hamshacha. Baruch means something is grafted, is communicated. Like brecham, hamavrich is agefen. We often learn, right? Bracha means what's access? The ata. The ata is here. V'achar Shemona Esrei. So this is the shuv that comes following the Ratzo. The Ratzo, on one hand, there's such a profound longing. It's shedding all the layers. It's yearning. And it's that desire to break out of all my confinements. To know that this is what I want. By definition, there's a profound thirst there. Ka'ayel tareg alafike moyim, ke nafshi sareg. It's a sareg. It's ratzain. It's a tshuka. It's a desire. It's a discontentment. Discontentment in a very beautiful way. And then the shuv is Baruch Atah Hashem, that this life here is blessed. That this life here has the absolute meaning. So it's not that I'm asking you to give me this. In other words, that this is ultimately where you want me to be, and therefore this is the ultimate connection, the ultimate relationship. So it's the resolution of the tension. Without the Ratzo, so start with the Shuv. Without the Ratzo, it's not necessarily Shuv. It's just like a smugness, a complacency. The Ratzo redefines the Shuv, and that's why after the Shuv there's again a Ratzo. It's the celebration of life. It's acceptance. It's embracing my position. It's embracing my reality. It's returning. Im Ratz Libcha, Shuv La'echad, as it says in Sefer Yitzir. V'achar Shemona Esrei, the Gemara says in Brachas, and it's brought in Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim, Beis HaKnesses LeBeis HaMedrash. That the Seder of a Jew is, the rhythm of a Jewish soul is after davening there's learning. So Achesh ben Es is limud Torah. Nimshach Gilui Zeh b'Torah. Now one comes to a deeper shuv, and that's in learning Torah. Because most of learning Torah, you're dealing with the world. You're dealing with God's perspective on the world. If you're learning halacha, you're learning Gemara, you're learning usually about things that are very material. You're not going to Gan Eden and higher than Gan Eden. That's what's fakert. Right? The Gemara says, "Eilei lakadosh baruch hu ba'olamay l'dalad amas shel halacha b'lvad." So these are the 4 cubits where he is. So that's the shuv through Torah. But it's not just learning Torah as a technical thing. He's just learning as an intellectual thing. That's what he says. The baruch atah comes into Torah. The lashon, the pasuk is ner mitzvah Torah or. Torah is light. In other words, it accesses this infinite light. Ki ruach aisi ruach v'amshich ruach. It's an expression in Zohar that he always brings. Ruach brings ruach and communicates ruach. Meaning the ruach, the spirit, the longing of the person, aisi. It reciprocates, it brings forth ruach from above, v'amshich ruach. So mele the Ratzo touches that core, which now is communicated to the person. So the Ratzo and the Shuv are not 2 separate things. That's the relationship. The Ratzo is the ruach, aisi ruach, which is v'amshich ruach. As he says, "Aidei b'chinas haratzo anal nimshach b'chinas ruach hamshachem el mayla lamata." That you're open to that experience within you. It starts milmata lamayla, which brings the hamshachem el mayla lamata. And the whole Ratzo is hachana that it should be able to be the shuv, because that's where ultimately the kavanah of Hashem is. So in a relationship, it's 2 ways, right? And that's the magic in the relationship is not just I'm longing. It's how that longing affects the flow. Huh? What were you saying? It's fine. It's the reciprocity, right? The shuv, the hamshachem al mayla lamata. It's not, you're not banging against the wall. It's a very real thing. So ruach, aisi ruach v'hamshach ruach. Ka'asher Hashamayim, the pasuk says in Iyov, im yasim elav liboy, ruchay v'nishmasei elav yasef. It's also a pasuk that the Alter Rebbe brings often, but he completely changes the interpretation. Usually this pasuk is talking about Iyov. They're describing over the Iyov and his friends. They're having a conversation that the whole world is God's, and he made it, and he can destroy it. So the most Mefarshim say it means im yasim elav liba. If God puts his heart to get rid of the world, ruchav v'nishmasei elav yasef, he could just take away the spirit, and everything ceases to exist. Like he does, it's not a complicated thing for him to nuke the world. He doesn't have to nuke it. Ruchav v'nishmasei elav yasef. Just take away back your neshama, and boom, there's no world. Alter Rebbe teaches, im yasim, it's Ratzo and Shuv. Im yasim elav liboy. If a person really places his heart towards this relationship, then there's going to be a response. Ruchav v'nishmasei elav yasef. He will gather in his ruach and his neshama. Ruach, aisi ruach v'amshich ruach. And then there's the 3rd step of shuv, and that's in the physical world, in the ma'isa of mitzvahs, in the action of mitzvahs. Here it's even more sure. You have the shuv of Shemoneh Esrei, step 1. You have the shuv of learning Torah, step 2. And then even the deeper shuv is actually in the physical world, in ma'isa mitzvahs, in good deeds that a person does throughout the whole day. As is known, what's the nekuda, the shayrish, the root of mitzvahs is to bring the dafka and kalim. Every mitzvah has containers, has structures. And in many ways, it could sometimes seem very technical and very physical, but that's the shuv, to access atzmus in the keli, in the vessel, in your life, in your structure. Rather than in the longing, which is the transcendent feeling and the yearning to go above. We said before, Torah is what's mitzvah ner? What's a ner? A ner is the keli in which you light the candle. Like menorah, a ner is the lamp. In it you put the oil, you put the wick, you light the fire. Torah is the light, but mitzvah is the ner, it's the container. Yeah. But the mitzvah is even more, he says. Because it's concrete. Torah is still in the mind, it's in the heart. It's in the book, it's in the sefer. In the mitzvah, it's actually the geshem itself. On this Chazal saying, you're forced to live. What does it mean you're forced to live? Pidush. Mitzad Ratzoi, it's a feeling bal karchach. I don't need it. Bal karchach atachai lefi she'achar ha'avavat shukah b'mesidas nefesh b'bchinas Ratzoi anal. Because Ratzoi has such a powerful love and shukah, where the person surrenders everything. Right? Like we learned in the previous shir, I don't want this, I want you. So when a person is really in touch with the Ratzoi, the longing, the shukah, the desire, the yearning is so powerful that it transcends everything. They surrender their mind, they surrender their logic, they surrender their soul. So now mitzad the Ratzoi say, come, this is the place, this is the place. So mitzad the Ratzoi is a sense of bal karchach, I don't want. For the neshama Ratzoi, in many ways, is much more natural. It's not confined by anything. It doesn't want to be confined. That's the chiddush in the Maamar. The shuv is not a natural thing, but the shuv is deeper. Mitzad the nature of the soul, Ratzoi is it's geschmack. It's not forced. The shuv is bal karchach atachai. Kidei liyas gilu yera lakim al mayla lamata b'maysa mitzvos. That the Eira Eliki, the divine light of infinity, should be revealed and manifested lamata, in the lower realm of reality. And it's expressed practically in the Ma'aseh mitzvahs, meaning the way the person lives in the physical world according to the divine will, according to Shulchan Aruch. V'zeh pirish b'chol levavcha, that's what we say in davening, in Krishma. V'haftas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, you should love with all your heart. V'mesidus nefesh tchila b'bchinas haratzoi. B'chol levavcha is the concept of mesidus nefesh, surrendering the soul, which is Ratzoi, but then you go something deeper, your whole soul, not just your heart. The heart is the place of love, with your whole soul is Ibchinas Shuv, Ka'asher Machshav v'dibur ha'maisa, but Machshav v'dibur ha'maisa shel ha'Torah mitzvos. B'chol nafshecha is that all your soul, meaning the totality of your being, your thoughts, your words, your behaviors, all become aligned and connected. L'kasher, to connect them from the word kesher, iskashrus, with the machshava dibur ha'maisa of God, which is Torah mitzvahs. Machshava dibur ha'maisa is shuv. It's my thinking, it's my speaking, it's my behavior. That's the b'chol nafshecha that follows the b'chol levavcha. And in a way it's deeper. It brings it into all the parts of the soul. It's not just the yearning, the love of wanting to transcend. Iskashrus, yeah. And Iskashrus, where I am, my machshava, my dibur ma'aser, realizing that each of them can become a channel and a container for infinity, for the Ein Sof. So it's almost like when a person is really open to this experience, it's like a breathtaking experience, because Ratzoi takes away your breath, like literally takes away your breath. If you ever experience it deeply, it's the most real thing the soul experiences. It's not a joke. Because it's a real Ratzoi. This is what it wants, this is what it yearns, and nothing else will satisfy it. In many ways, Shuv is a Mesidus Nefesh, but a different type of Mesidus Nefesh. It's the Mesidus Nefesh, Bal Karchach Atachai, to be right here, and to celebrate it. So that already starts beginning already with Shemona Esrei. So in that sense, Shemona Esrei is a deeper bittul than Krishma. That's why it's the peak of davening. What's the bittul? With all I. How can that be deeper than Krishma? Because it's the shuv after the Ratzah. Yeah. It's the tachlis, yeah. In many ways, my health and my wisdom and my sustenance, in a funny way, it's not my need, it's God's need. My soul never planned this. The soul doesn't need it really. Soul agreed to it and embraced it, and because it's God's will, so that's really the will of the soul. Right? But mitzad its design, Ratzah is much more natural. So till Shemona Esrei is the soul's need. And Shemona Esrei is now God says, this is what I need. I neshama b'guf, v'chai b'hem, v'lo sheyamos b'hem. The beginning of integration, yeah. Baruch atah Hashem, right here. Mevarech hashanim, chaynin ladam das, chaynin hadas, hareitz b'shuva. Physical needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs, whatever a person talks about. They can talk about their dental appointment, they can talk about their business meeting, they can talk about the health of their children, or whatever else you're talking about. But it's very personal. That's the whole idea of Shemona Esrei. You're asking for your own needs. The Rambam says the definition of tefillah is you ask for what you need, not for what somebody else needs, for what you need right here, right today. Tomorrow, sometimes you look at what you davened for 5 years ago, it may have been a joke relative to today. Right? You thought that's what you need, sure. Yeah. Apparently you're bigger than you think you are. Apparently you're bigger than you think you are. In a way, Shuv brings out the greatness of the soul in a much more powerful way. It means that even the limits are not limited. Like Ratzo is saying, I don't want to be limited. And Shuv is saying, you're not limited. Even what you think are limits are not really limits. So it's, in a way, it's a much deeper Hagish. But the only way you can experience this Shuv is only after a Ratzo. I can't skip the Ratzo and say, I just begin with Shuv. Then it's not Shuv. Shuv means you're returning from somewhere. Where are you returning from? You have to return from somewhere. I went somewhere and now I'm coming home. I'm coming back. Where are you coming back from? I never left. Ratzo is, I went somewhere and now I'm coming back. I'm bringing it back. I'm integrating. What are you integrating? If there was no Ratzo, I'm not integrating anything. I'm a couch potato, okay? I'm sorry, what? Why is Shabbos? Mm. Right. It's an interesting question. Saying why is Shabbos the tachlis? According to this, the 6 days, 6 weeks are the 6 days. That's the shuv.
Shabbos is also, that's the main mitzvah.
You're saying shuv also. You're saying Shabbos is also shuv. Right. I hear. Interesting harder. V'hinei b'chines hashuv nikra Hashamayim.
Shows that Yeshuv is really Ratzo. If you take a break and you believe in Hashem, it shows the whole work is only because Hashem said you have to work. So it's made on the Shuv that it's really from.
What type of shuv it is? V'hinei b'chines hashuv nikra Hashamayim. Generally, shuv is called Hashamayim. Why? We said that Eretz comes from the word Ratzon. So Eretz is connected to Ratzi, because in Eretz is created a Ratzi. So he says Shamayim is actually connected to Shuv. Why? Because the Shuv, which is always Torah and mitzvahs, the light is communicated in a state of Makiv. The mitzvahs are called Makifim, meaning it's an Makif, it's like a surrounding infinite light that encompasses and envelops the person. It says that the mitzvahs become garments for the soul in the Gan Eden. Levushim and Makifim represent the same idea. So when you say that the mitzvahs become Levushim, it means it's an Makif. It says you have like food that goes into you, it's integrated, mazon, and Levushim remains outside the person. They cover the person. Spiritually, Levush represents Makif. So the mitzvahs create an Makif. It says, she's bound up, the soul is bound up in the bond of life. Avigail told us to David, even Torah, which is called food, it's integrated. Torah is called bread, lechem. It's also a levush. The pasuk says in Tehillim, he dawns his light like a tunic, like a shirt, which is spoken about Torah. Al-kei nikra b'chinas shuv zay, the Torah mitzvahs b'shem shamayim. Ki kemoy shamayim makifim le'eretz, kach b'chinas hashuv hazeh, b'chinas makif l'b'chinas harotzi d'eretz hana. Just like the shamayim is the makif of earth, when we say heaven, basically earth is the planet that's situated in the entire expanse of the universe, which is makif, which surrounds and envelops this planet earth. So just like Shamayim is makif the Eretz, so the Shuv is makif the Ratzi of Eretz. It's the that comes down to be makif, to envelop and contain the Ratzi of Eretz, that you could stay in the Eretz. So the Ratzi is the Eretz, which is the yearning to go up, and then the Torah mitzvahs, which is the makif of Hashem, which then envelops the person, like the Shamayim envelops and surrounds the Eretz. But there's something even deeper. But to understand this even more, look at the physical earth and heaven. And he says, Anurayim, we see something spectacular. or actually pretty humbling. Shaha'eretz eina rak kegargir chardol legabi merchav hakadur shel hashamayim hamakif mala mekol tzadeh b'shva achas. You know what gargir chardol is? A seed of mustard. Gargir is a seed, a little grain, tiny little seed. A chardol is mustard. You have an original mustard seed. It's pretty minuscule. It's very, very small. So he says, we look at planet Earth and we take it very seriously, right? Because there's a lot of action on this planet. He said, when you look at it in the presence of the expanse of space, which is called Shamayim, so the best metaphor that he has for it is, it's literally a mustard seed. What we would call like a speck of dust, but it's really smaller than a speck of dust. It's kegarger chardal, because it's really smaller than a mustard seed.
It's pretty small. Mustard seed is very small. That's why
Right. Yeah, that's why he uses the marshal. Yeah. You know, and it's really an extraordinary thing. There was a picture of planet Earth that was taken a number of years ago. And they made a book about it. I think it's called the Blue Pale Dot or something like that. I think it was taken. A Voyager was traveling, and I think it was approximately, if I'm not mistaken, 4 billion light years away from planet Earth, give or take. It was a big number. You have to remember, remember what a light year is, right? Light travels 186,000 miles. No, it was less than that. Yeah, you could look it up. Blue pale dot. How far it was? They were counting. A light year, light travels 186,000 miles per second. Yeah, it takes 8 minutes for the light of the sun to get here. 8 minutes. The light that we're seeing was emitted 8 minutes ago. So when you understand, so a year of light is not like a year by us, 365 days. A second is 186,000 miles per second. That's how much light travels in a second. So now,
3.7 billion miles, not light.
oh, sorry. 3.7 billion miles, much less, taka much less. You can't even compare it. 3.7 billion miles is like, across the street, like the other side of Forshay.
It's still within, it used to be within.
Right,
the,
right.
Within the
So it's completely a different magnitude. I said light years. I had the 4 billion right. It's like the story of the professor. There was a professor of cosmology, and he was giving a lecture to an audience. And he said that in 4 billion years, basically according to his calculations, the whole world will be naught. So a Jew started to have heart palpitations. He wanted to call out Salah, so the professor wanted to calm him down, and he said, what are you so worried? He said, you said that the universe is going to be naught. He said, I said in 4 billion years. 4 billion years. He said, I thought you said million. So this is what this reminds me of, okay? This is a worried Jew, billion I won't worry about, but million, somebody got to take responsibility for it, yeah.
4 billion light years. It's like,
Yeah, it's a different magnitude.
we get only the plasma
Right.
from the telescope.
Yeah. You're talking about numbers beyond. So even from there, which is not so far away, relatively speaking, it's fascinating. I remember the first time I saw, so they took a picture of planet Earth. And the first time I looked at the picture, it's like, there's no planet Earth. And that's the whole point, you don't see it. And then when you search, you see this tiny little garger chardal. And that's not from a very distant space. Relative, it's pretty big, I get it. But if now you compare it to the vastness of the universe, the observable universe today, which is probably close to 90 billion light years, what's observable, you're talking about something that you wouldn't even notice. So on one level, this world is a place of crazy insanity, right? If you haven't figured it out yet. And every hour, the action just grows. And yet if you just move yourself away a little bit, it's like it almost dissipates. So the Alter Rebbe says that's the mashal for Ratzo and Shuv. So he says, when you look at the whole Eretz, it's kegarger chardal legabe merchav hakadur shel hashamayim. If you look at the expanse of the kadur, of the ball, so to speak, that we call heaven, it's like a gargle. Hamakifala. Kach erech b'chinas haratzo yazeh the Eretz legabi b'chinas hashuv the Torah mitzvos shenikra v'tzoyne v'chachmasi yizbarach hu rak ka'erech garger chardo legabi merchav hagadol d'shamayim. So now we understand when you talk about Ratzo versus Shuv, the Ratzo is the Eretz and the Shuv is the Shamayim. That even the deepest Ratzo, the deepest yearning of the earth, its relativity to the Shuv, which is God's will and wisdom, is like the relative size of Eretz l'gabe Shamayim.
All my strife for cosmology is that it shows the Shuv was the Ershtazak. What a Shamayim
Yeah. And think about the powerful idea here. First he said earlier that Ratzo, this is the whole neshama, and Ratzo dafka ta'atzmos. And now he says, but l'gabe the Shuv, it's kagarger charlo. In other words, here you see the power of what Shuv means. The power of what Shuv Vayera b'tachtonim is. Sometimes you could say this because you don't understand the depth of Ratzo. But you're talking here about a Jew that in the middle of his dveikus of davening, he would constantly say, ich will garnished. In other words, I could say, yeah, Shuv is the main thing, Ratzo, I don't care about your feelings, your yearnings, fine, whatever, your fantasias, It's not what he's saying. He's saying that the nekud of the neshama is Ratzo. But yet, legabe the Shuv, it's like a garger charl, it's like the mustard seed of Eretz legabe Shamayim. Why? Why? Because sof kol sof, after everything's said and done, the Ratzo is authentic and real and deep, and not just authentic and deep, it really captures the yearning of the soul, but it's the yearning of the soul. And in the Shuv, one grasps his will and his wisdom, which is like the infinity of Shamayim legabe Eretz. So here you're touching something that legabe the Ratzo is still there. Planet Earth is there. We're not denying planet Earth. We're all talking from planet Earth and in planet Earth. But legabe the Shuv is like Eretz legabe Shamayim. Everything fakert, yeah. That's how you know it's chassidus. It becomes fakert. This itself makes a Ratzo. This itself could make you a Ratzo. Of course, that's what the Shuv brings to Ratzo. That's why the Shuv brings to Ratzo.
On the surface, religion appears like as a food for the soul. You need to just
Right.
cultivate only a spiritual thing and stuff like that.
Right.
The atmosphere is forget.
Yeah.
The earth.
Right.
And you think, oh, the earth is amazing. No, Shamayim.
Yeah.
It's like the Muslim is like
Yeah.
the reverse.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah. This is the meaning of Yeshaya Hanavi's words, which is the beginning of the Haftarah of Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. The earth is the heaven is my seat, my throne, my kisei, my chair, and the earth is my footstool. Hadoim Ragle. What's Hadoim Ragle? Pirush Hadoim Ragle al derech hasrafraf lekisei shemagbi haraglayim. It's like a person has a couch, a kisei, a chair, and they have a srafraf. A srafraf is a footstool where you put your legs, that the legs are elevated. Right? We know the couches or recliners or chairs come with a srafraf. So srafraf is much lower than a chair because it's not for the body, it's for the legs. And it's magbiya haraglayim. Adamin, yeah. It lifts up the feet. So what's the mashla Shamayim ki sivaretz hadoim raglai? So now let's understand. Shamayim is Shuv and Eretz is Ratzo. So he says Shamayim is my kisei, my throne. What does a seat do? A person is standing. The seat lowers them. You sit down. You say, come sit down. When you're standing straight, everything is vertical, so your head is facing the top, and the seat brings you down. It lowers the head. That's the Shamayim, is the kisei. What's the Eretz? The Eretz lifts up the legs, lifts up the raglayim. That's the job. So Shamayim brings you down. Eretz lifts you up. Hashamayim, it's my seat. As a result of that, I'm sitting, I'm not standing. The earth, hadoim ragloi, instead of my feet being on the ground, now my feet are uplifted. So he said, this is what the Navi means. On a spiritual level, this is the meaning. Hanashamas, kach hanashamas, nikrayim bra kara davua. The Gemara says, bra kara davua. Child is the kara. The kara is the leg of the father, meaning it's an extension of the parent. We are all extensions of our parents, just like our parents are extensions of their parents. Simply biologically, we continue propagating the gene, the physiological, spiritual, and emotional identities of parents that continue throughout the generations. Specifically, bra, child is kara davu. It's the raglayim, kara, from the word karayim, an erevin, kara davu, the leg of the father. So the neshamas essentially can be called the divine legs, bra kara davu. Mis'alim ay de b'chinas eretz u b'chinas haratzai. What lifts up the neshama? The neshama comes in, can come into a galus and it's eclipsed. What lifts it up? It needs hadoim raglai. The feet can start aching. You need to lift up your feet. So hadoim raglai, the eretz is hadoim raglai. It lifts up the feet. The amen that lifts up the legs, which is ratzoi. Ratzoi lifts up the neshama. It liberates the soul. The soul realizes, I'm not in a prison. I was never in a prison. I'm not in a prison. I was sent down there in order to be able to transform them and to reveal my light in that place. But I'm on a mission. The Ratzo is freeing for the soul. It lifts up the Raglayim. Without a Ratzo, the soul starts thinking it doesn't exist, or it's eclipsed, or it's in prison. The Ratzo is therefore like giving a person who didn't have oxygen, chas v'shalom, for a little, and you give them, thank you. It came out from under a rock. The Ratzo is the heart is vibrating. It's vibrating. That's the Eretz. So that's Hadoim Ragloi. The Ratzo lifts up Eretz, from the word Ratzo, lifts up the soul. V'derech prat, specifically, Kol zman sheyesh aliyah lebchinas Eretz el yoni knesses Yisrael. It specifically refers to those times when there's an aliyah, when there's an elevation for the Eretz Elyon, meaning for Eretz Elyon means the supernal element of Eretz, the spiritual element of Eretz, which is Knesset Yisrael, because as we said, every soul is bra kara davu, it's the leg of Hashem, it's the extension of Hashem. And Hashem is a chelik elokavim, also it's like the extension, like the leg extends the body, it's the extension of God. And the Ratzi lifts it up. What are the examples of times that there's aliyah la'eretz? Kamei b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov, like Shabbos and Yom Tov. The Ksiv, it says, Im tashiv mishabas raglecha. So here we have your answer. Im tashiv mishabas raglecha sois chafatzecha b'yom kotche. We say it in the Kiddush of Day. The Navi Yeshaya speaks about Shabbos. What does he say? Im tashiv mishabas raglecha sois chafatzecha b'yom kotche v'karasa l'Shabbos oynig l'gdosh Hashem mechubed. Right? So what does it mean literally? Im tashiv mishabas raglecha. If you'll return your legs from Shabbos, meaning instead of running and going to work or wherever you're going with your algaim, you'll bring it back. Asois chafatzecha b'yom kachi, not to do your own chafetzim, your own business matters on kachi. V'karasa l'Shabbos oynig v'chibadetai mimtzai chefzecha v'da b'dover os tisaneg al Hashem. So the words are raglecha. So literally it means because people use their raglayim to run to work. But he says, really it means it's imtashiv mishabas raglecha. It's bringing back the regel. It's being maila the regel. It's elevating the regel, which is brakara davua, which is ha'aretz hadoim ragli. That's the ratzui. V'yamtif, the ksivim tashiv mishabas raglecha. V'chein ha'gimel yamim tovim nikrayim gimel regalim. The three yamim tovim are called shalosh regalim, which means three legs. So we say shalosh regalim. What's the connection with the leg? Huh? So literally it's called Aliyah L'Regel, right? Because you went up to the Beis HaMikdash, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos with your feet. Aliyah L'Regel. Shalosh Pam Bashani Yirah Chol Schorchas Pnei Adon Hashem, right? You went up, and you went up with your regel. The first Mishnah in Chagiga discusses a child who can't walk up with his father, with his raglayim, if he's mechuyev in Aliyah L'Regel, etc. So the idea is it's called, so why is it called Shalosh Regalim? Three legs. Because you used your feet to go up, so it seems like just a technical thing. It happens to be, yeah, people use their feet to go up. And what if you went up with a helicopter? I'm sure the Gvirim went with a helicopter, no? Huh? The Yotz Aliyah L'Regel or not? You have to climb up, you have to do the exercise, go up the Bais with a regel. Okay, it says, Rav Zaks, B'kei Yotz Zayin Aliyah L'Regel with the helicopter, Dem Nav gave me the fis. Was sagt der Minchas Chinuch, huh? Yeah. 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 So, Chiger, yeah, Chiger. Kol mi she'eino yochel alos beraglov, yeah. So, but Pashtus, it's because you can't go up with your feet, and at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they didn't have helicopters, they didn't have cars, and they didn't have planes. But Alter Rebbe says it's a much deeper word. Kol mi she'eino yochel alos beraglov is beruchnis. The whole soul coming down into the world is the B'china of Raglayim. The whole idea of Shabbos and Yom Tov is Tashiv M'Shabbos Reglech, Aliyah L'Regel, Shloishel Regalim. It's when the Regalim have an Aliyah, when the Regel, Brakara Davua, the leg, which comes down, it's the low part of the body is elevated to its source. Ha'aretz Hadoim Raglan, and that's the Ratzo of Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Is it the body, we use our body to elevate our soul in a way? Or it's vice versa? Or it's a soul that elevates
The soul that elevates the body. V'Hashamayim kisi hainu b'chinas shuv. But then you have the heaven is my throne, my kisei. That's shuv. Shu yiridu v'amshachar eze k'mamaya yoshev ala kisei shemashpil kamase. When you're sitting on a chair, you're not lifting up your body, you're lowering. Mashpil kamase. You're in full stature and height. Kaima is your height, and mashpil, you lower it, you humble it. When a person is sitting, their kaima comes downward. So that's Hashamayim kisi, that's the b'chin of shuv. Ratzo is the elevation going up, like the legs being elevated, sublimated, promoted to a higher state. But shuv is, on the contrary, the Ein Sof is coming downward. It's being lowered into your situation, into your life, into your home, into your relationships, into your physical body, into your life. The Santa Kasha. It's a good question you're asking. By Krishma, you're saying you should stand, and by Shemon Esrei, you should sit. But also, you also lift up your feet when you sit. You can't lift up your feet when you stand. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you could jump up, but it's not going to be very comfortable. I'm saying it's also hard. So is also when you're sitting. Stam, I'm just. V'zel va'ata kadosh yoshev tilis Yisrael. It says in Tehillim, we say it right in davening. Va'ata kadosh yoshev tilis Yisrael. So he teaches Pirush, who is Baruch Kadosh Muvdal Mekal Olamas. Rakai de Tehillis Yisrael, Nimshach Lias Yoshev and Ishbalamata, Kamayim Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev V'Isek B'Torah. Va'ata Kadosh. You are holy, which is Kadosh and Muvdal. You're aloof, you're sublime from all the worlds. But through Tehillis Yisrael, through the praise of Yisrael, you come down to be Yoshev. You're Yoshev through Tehillis Yisrael. Va'ata Kadosh. But through Tehillas Yisrael, through the praise of Yisrael, Yoshev, you come down with, like the Gemara has Hashem sits and learns Torah. When he sits and learns Torah, he doesn't stand. The pshat is that the Isaac B'Torah creates the Shuv, the Shemayim Kisi, the Yoshev, that the Ein Sof, so to speak, is communicated downward to the person. The dream of Yaakov Avinu is a ladder that stands on the earth, and the head reaches heaven, and it says that represents Tefillah. Tefillah is the ladder. Sulam, that says in Zohar, Sulam, that's loisa. It's the ladder of davening. Pirush ha-sulam u'aliyah b'bchinas ratzah. Because what is davening? It's a ladder. What's a ladder? I'm on earth. I'm on the ground. Eretz. The ladder begins the climbing. In Yiddish, it's called kletterin. You begin to climb upward. Mutzav arza. I begin with arza. That's what I have. I have earth. I have me. I have my physical self. But sulam is the yearning, the ratzah to climb. And that's the climb of davening. It says that the Sulam had 4 steps. So it's brought in Kabbalah and Arizal and Alan Chassidus that the 4 steps of davening are the 4 steps of the ladder. There's the first section of davening till Baruch Sha'amar, known as Olam HaSiyah. And then there's from Baruch Sha'amar till Baruch Hu, till after Yishtabach is Olam HaYitzirah. And then there's the blessings of Kriya Shema, and Kriya Shema is Olam HaBriyah. And then there's Shemona Esrei, which is Olam HaTzil, is the 4th step, the top of the ladder. You reach the top of the ladder. And then after Shemona Esrei, you start climbing down. And the 4 sections of davening after Shemona Esrei bring you down, all the way down. So that's what he's saying. It's Sulam Mutzav Arza, but you begin with Arza. That's Ratzui. Mutzav Arza. The Arza creates a Ratzui, a yearning. Because when I'm on the earth, I want to come back. I want to be connected. I want to reconnect. I don't want the dissonance of separation. Nobody wants to be separated. We want dvekas. But here he says, Achiroishe Magia Hashamayim. But the top of the ladder, how do you know you reach the top of the ladder? You come to heaven, Shebeshmina Esra Maschil Hashuv. So how do you know you reach the top of the ladder? When you're going back. Literally, when do you start going back? When you reach the top of the ladder. So spiritually, he says, how do you know you reach the highest level of the ladder? When you go back. Until you're not ready to go back, you didn't reach the top of the ladder. You're still busy playing with the ladder. Once you hit Rosh Magia Hashamayim, what's Shamayim? We explained Shamayim is the makif that surrounds the Eretz. So it's bringing back down into Eretz. And it's Shaloi Be'erech greater than the Eretz itself. Sheb'shmon Esrei maschil hashuv k'niskel el v'ikarei achar kach ha'idei Torah mitzvahs. Shemon Esrei is the beginning of Shuv, but the main Shuv is after davening. In Limud HaTorah and Kiyum HaMitzvahs, that's bringing it back. It's integrating the experience of davening. I don't know if you know, the Baal Shem Tov once said, I heard this once from the Rebbe of Fabrengen a few times. He said it with such a srakshus, I remember. But then I saw it in Sfarim, the Baal Shem Tov said about himself, and I guess he wanted people to understand this. The Baal Shem Tov said that every day that he's alive after davening is a miracle. It's a miracle that after davening he stays alive. I don't think he said it about himself. He said it was obvious about himself, but he said that one of the greatest miracles in life is that you daven, and after davening you stay alive. Now most people, they don't see any miracle with that. They were alive before davening, they're alive in the middle of davening, Baruch Hashem, they're alive after davening. It's interesting, Grace. Every moment is a nest, but not after davening. Before and after davening is also the same miracle. But it's very hard to understand. But when you understand what this Maamar is saying about Ratzo, you understand what the Baal Shem Tov is saying. At least something. Yeah, what the Baal Shem Tov was saying is, davening was a real journey upward. It's not a simple thing, but davening. In other words, it's really, really letting go of all the protectors and the receptors on the brain that doesn't allow the brain to go to the truest part of the soul. Because once you touch that yichidish benefit of the soul, the Ratzo it's so infinite and so profound, it's a miracle to come back. It's torturous in many ways, it's painful. The soul says, do me a favor. I want to stay, I don't want to go back. It's mamish bal korchach atachai. It's just that, we because we are so encased in so many blockages, we don't know about our Ratzo. In many ways, it's easier for us to understand Shuv, but it's really harder to understand Shuv than it is the Ratzo. Once you know you're inside, Shuv is a much bigger chiddush. It's much more unnatural than Ratzo. By us, Shuv just means, go home and eat breakfast and be nice to your wife, which is a good thing. You should go home and eat breakfast and be nice to your wife or whoever it is. Right? But the real understanding of Shuv is that Shuv is a miracle. It's a ness. So the Baal Shem Tov said after davening, the fact that one stays alive is pashta ness. And he said it's about every single day of davening. So just imagine what happened by davening. By davening every single day, there was this journey where the soul went away from all of its limitations and all of its confinement, and then it realizes what it is. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't need ego. It doesn't need power. It doesn't need influence. Ich will mehr nicht als dich allein. And once the soul is in that space, everything else is like a comedy show. It's like a gullus b'tarich gullus. Like, why should I? You want me now to go back, imprison myself? Now I have to smile, superficial smiles, to people who don't know what I'm talking about. All they think is I'm insane, so I have to make myself as though I'm not insane, so I could communicate with them. Verdaf, who needs this headache? You got to be cuckoo.
You were there and I realized what it is and went through real Shuv, you want to run back because it's a Ratzo and Shem to do all this stuff. So it's not a miracle. It's like if I got really to the place of truth, I want to go back just for him, for his sake.
You're right, but that's also a miracle. That's the miracle.
It's because it's on me. It's not on.
It's a miracle because the to send infinity into containers is yeah, you're right. You're right. It defies reality. It defies nature.
You're saying being Nadav Avihu is much more natural state.
Yeah.
Than
Yeah. The Baal Shem Tov knew that he has to come back. That's why he came back. As we said, Nadav and Avihu committed a sin, a very holy sin, but a sin nonetheless. Nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. And as we're learning in this Maamar, it's not you go on a journey, but you need integration. The whole purpose of the journey is a hachana to integration. It's much deeper. That's how you know if it's avodas Hashem or it's not avodas Hashem. In not avodas Hashem, the journey is an objective. Elamai, you need integration. You're gonna coming back to a world. You have a family. You have people around you. That's not what the Maamar is saying. The Alter Rebbe's lashon before was What was his lashon? Hakoil hachana lebchinas hashuv. The whole Ratzo is a hachana for shuv. That's how you know it's avodas Hashem. The Ratzo is critical, it's vital. Because without the Ratzo, I don't even know who I am. My shuv is just a fake shuv. It's just a prison. It's not a shuv. So you must have the Ratzo. And in many ways, the Ratzo is the geschmack of the soul where it could breathe. It comes up from out under a rock. Goes back to its source. That's what shuv is, right? Im toshiv mishabes raglecha. Asayis chafetzecha b'yem kachi. You under a rock. You could breathe. I'm chaya, Ratzo. Dveikus. But if it's avodas Hashem, it's only hachana for shuv. It's a preparation for shuv. That's how you know it's avodas Hashem. That distinguishes journey from journey. And not a hachana for shuv. What should I tell you? And not a hachana for shuv. No, sometimes you say, "This is a Ratzo, elamai." You're a person, right? You're coming back to the world, so you have to integrate. But he's saying something much deeper than that. He's saying the whole purpose of the Ratzo is it's a hachana for shuv. And that takes a very deep bittul. Because the Ratzo is so satisfying and so gratifying, you don't want it to be a hachana for shuv. Let's stop. Let's stop. And that's the difference of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara says 4 people went into the orchard. Which orchard did they go into? What do you think? They went to Brooklyn Botanical Gardens to smell some lilies. From that, you don't have to go insane. You don't have to die. You don't have to become an apikaitis when you visit Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. I went there many times. So it wasn't a simple garden they went into. But it says, Elisha ben Avuya became a heretic. Ben Azai passed away. Hitzitz v'meiz. Ben Zayma hitzitz v'nivga. He never came back to his regular self. You're talking about the greatest of the Jews. Rabbi Akiva, nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. That's a Gemara in Chagiga, daf Yudala, daf Tesvav. So the Gersin in Yaakov is, by us in Gemara it says, Rabbi Akiva yatza b'shalom. And in Yaakov it says, Rabbi Akiva nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. He went in peace and went out in peace. So I once heard from the Rebbe, he said, they all went in peace. The difference is how they went out. So why does it say by Rabbi Akiva nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom? They all went in fine. They were all fine when they went in. They went in together as a group. So he says the pshat is Rabbi Akiva went in differently than them. The difference in how they went out is because how they went in. They went in for an experience. Rabbi Akiva went in order to come out. That's the difference. That changes everything. Rabbi Akiva went in as a servant. He went in as an Oved Hashem. He went in as an Eved Hashem. So Mele Yatza B'Shalom. Whatever he saw, he knew that it's just a hachana. It's a hachana. It's an important hachana. You're climbing a ladder. Yeah, you got to climb the ladder. But in order to reach the top of the ladder, you're going to go down. It's going to be shuv. And everything you're going to see on the ladder is only a mustard seed. Legabi the truth. That's very humbling. When you know that it's a mustard seed, there's humility. Don't get stuck in your mustard seed. Your mustard seed is gewaldic. It's amazing, but it's a mustard seed. A mustard seed is important, but it's a mustard seed. And if it's a mustard seed, it's not the end of the story. It's a hachana. Huh? A mustard seed, that's a garger charlo. It's a hachana. It's a very, very important hachana, and we cherish the hachana. And the hachana has to be done with attentiveness, with the chilu rechimu. And it's very special because this hachana is what allows the shuv to be expansive, to be enriched, not to become a prison. And after the shuv, there's going to be another Ratzo. The Baal Shem Tov went back to daven the next day. Because Ratzo is essential to the soul. It's essential to the soul. The climbing that ladder is essential to the soul, because if I just stay in shuv, it can so become a disconnect. Like you disconnect the umbilical cord, and now it's not shuv anymore. It's just, I'm stuck. It's a form of stuckness. The Ratzo is what keeps the shuv alive, but it's all a hachana for the shuv. Yeah, shuv without Ratzo is just, the person doesn't know who they are. It's like you throwing away, the soul is thrown into this whole shell and husk, and now it has to figure it out, and the shell tells the soul that it is somebody else. So the Ratzo is like the link to its connection. Like Reb Meir Primishlana once said, as mitzugebund in oiben, falt mir nicht unten. There's a story, they were going to the mikveh, and in his shtetl, he would go on a slope. The mikveh had a shortcut over a mountain and then down. If not, you had to go around the whole mountain. So even in the winter, when it was icy, he would go up the mountain and he would go down. So somebody asked him how he does it. Why doesn't he? People try it and they slip, they hurt themselves. So he says, "As mit bin in Eiben fällt man nicht unten." That was his answer. You understand? As mit bin in Eiben fällt man nicht unten. When you're going down the slope, you slip because you're not holding on to a rope. And he said, "Meidel is sugebun in Eiben." So real avodas Hashem, how do you know it's avodas Hashem? Because the Ratzo is always a preparation for the Shuv. It's a chana for the Shuv. And it goes, chayzer chalila, it goes back. It's contingent. Yeah, it's always authentic. Not because the Ratzo is not real. When is the Ratzo real? When it's a chana for Shuv. If not, it's just a journey for the sake of a journey. It's a form of escapism. What does it mean, a form of escapism? A form of not accepting who I am and what my mission is and what my real essence is. So then I'm just escaping pain. If I'm escaping pain, the Ratzo is never hachana for the Shuv. The escapism is a tachlis b'fnei atzma. It's a number, it's a good number, but it's numbing. And if the tachlis is numbing, then it's not the real Ratzo. So it's nichnas b'shalom. He went in with another mindset. He went in differently. They went in, they wanted. I mean, they were very, very big people, talking about great people, but they didn't go like Rabbi Akiva.
Can you say that Rabbi Akiva was not affected?
Rabbi Akiva was affected tremendously, but it affected, the deepest impact was that when he came back, he was a different person. The way he came back. He was different, but his shuv was expanded. How does Ratzo look like if it's not? Shuv without Ratzo is not so hard. It's not shuv. Shuv means you're returning. Shuv means you're returning. Shuv without, if I don't have Ratzo, then it's like he said before, the soul could be completely eclipsed by the animal soul in the body, and I'm just a passive person. I just follow my protectors. I have all these coping mechanisms, and I go from one mechanism to another mechanism. But there's no authentic passion. The person is not really alive. I mean, we all feel it. It's like blah. For the shuv or not. Tachlis for itself. The Ratzo becomes a destination. Then there's no shuv. The person is waiting for the next Ratzo. Somebody once said, what's the definition of consciousness? The annoying time between naps. Right? So that's what shuv is. It's the annoying time between journeys. Nebuch, the guy doesn't let me do it for another week, so fine. Yeah, in other words, it's just the annoying is like the reality. Yeah, you got to pay some bills. I mean, you don't want to be evicted from your apartment, so why don't you just go pay some bills? But there's no chayis in the shuv. Huh? Yeah, so the Ratzo is a great place. Next. And we understand it. And when you talk about within the spiritual world, right, it becomes even more powerful. Because you're talking here about a real journey to the divine. It's not a journey to, just to see Antarctica. To see the penguins, which is also amazing. If you got the money. But you're talking here about a Ratzo to the depth of consciousness and experience. But the Alter Rebbe says, and that's the nechama, that it's all a gargir charda legabe the shuv. So that's why you want to come back. It's not nebach, you have to come back because, somebody still wants you on earth. And if nobody wants you on earth, so stay there. It's because the deepest experience of Ratzo is going to be like a mustard seed. Legabe ritzoyne v'chachmasei of shuv. We like mustard seeds. We love mustard seeds, But that gives you the comfort, the nechama, why the Ratzi is achana for the Shuv. It's not like Nebach, you know. Nadav and Avihu, Taka were in Taifas this. That was their chet. Their chet was very deep. They were deep souls. That's why Moshe said they're holier than you and me. He told Aaron, B'krovi HaKadosh, Rashi says, they're holier than you and me. Now that's pretty powerful that Moshe should say that Nadav and Avihu were holier than him and Aaron put together. You're talking about Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu was a neshama of Atzilus. He was like Kam Navi Kam Moshe. There was nobody like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe's Goyal Rishon, Moshe's Goyal Acharon. I mean, the Rambam calls him Mifchar Min Enushi, the epitome of what a human being can be. And Nadav and Avihu were holier than him. And Aaron. So it just tells you their Kedusha. And still we say they sinned. Okay, so halavai, all of our sins should be as heinous as their sins. But because of who they were, it's called a sin. What's the sin? The sin was Ratzi without Shuv. Bekarvasam lifnei Hashem vayamusa. So Chassidus teaches the words, Bekarvasam lifnei Hashem vayamusa. Their intimacy with God translated into death. That was their sin. Not a bad sin. Huh? What? Bekarvasam lifnei Hashem vayamusa. This was their mitzvah. Their mitzvah was they wanted to be close and not have any distance. Such bad people.
What's the punishment? They don't get to go back. That's the punishment. They get to be close to it.
And they remained. Nadav and Avihu were very happy, by the way. They were not. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Similar to what we learned in Likkutei Torah about the Meraglim, right? That the Meraglim weren't just sinners. The Meraglim, in many ways, they just wanted to stay in the Midbar. The Midbar was in many ways a place of Ratzai. You didn't got to deal with anything. You had the clouds of glory surrounding you. You had the man, you had the water from Be'er Shel Miriam, you had Moshe and Aaron. What, you got to be cuckoo, you got to be crazy to go into Israel. Look at Israel. They can't put together. It's a hard, crazy country. When Jewish people have to run a country, it's not easy. All their Meshugasin comes out. Right? In the Midbar, all in the Midbar, what do you need more? What do you have to go? It's like, what do you need? What is an Edom of Kest? You know, you're sitting, your father-in-law gives you everything. And your father-in-law here is even better than your father-in-law. So what do you need it for? That's not the purpose of life. That's what Moshe said. Toiva ha'aretz ma'od ma'od. Toiva ha'aretz. The aretz is the avodah of Shuv, bringing Shamayim back into the aretz. So here you have the paradox. In Eretz, you leave Eretz. That's Ratzi. V'rosh Ka'asher Hashamayim, to bring Elokus back into Eretz through the Shamayim, which is the Makif, because it's an Ar Makif and Eretz, and it's the Bli Gvul Legabed Eretz. V'zeu Shamar Razal Echad Man Da'amar the Eretz Kodmol Hashamayim B'Briya. You see the line starts V'Ikroi, Bais, column 2. The Gemara in Chagiga has an argument between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. You remember the argument? What was created first? Heaven or earth? Beis Shammai says heaven precedes earth. Shenemar Bereishis bara Elokim Hashamayim Beis. Beis Hillel says no. Eretz Kodmol Hashamayim. Earth precedes heaven. Because the pasuk says, also in Bereishis, Eila told us, Hashamayim Varetz B'yoyim Asois Hashem Elokim Eretz V'Shamayim. The day he made Eretz and Shamayim. So L'chad Man Da'amar means, according to one opinion, Eretz Kadmol Hashamayim B'Briya. What's the machlokes here? What was the machlokes? It's a physical machlokes. What if heaven came first? What's the machlokes? Earth, heaven. So Alter Rebbe says it's a very, very deep machlokes. This is not a small machlokes. What comes first? And we say usually halacha k'Beis Hillel, at least Bizman Hazeh. So the whole Maamar now is going to explain this machlokes for Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. It says, but now the halacha is like Beis Hillel. In the future, halacha is like Beis Shammai. That's what Arizal says, that all the halachas that today are like Beis Hillel, when Mashiach comes, it's going to change halacha ke Beis Shammai. So prepare for the first night of Chanukah, 8 candles. So it looks like heaven, earth, what are they even arguing about? Like, what are they arguing? They were there, they stood there. So he brings one pasuk, he brings another pasuk. You think Beis Hillel didn't know Beis Shammai's pasuk? You know, when people learn Gemara, everyone has a pasuk to prove their point. The other one didn't know that pasuk. I know the pasuk, he didn't know the pasuk. You could do a Google search and find the pasuk. And they didn't need Google for pasukim, they knew Tanakh.
They knew each other opinion also.
Right. It's interesting. When people learn Gemara, it's hard for them to understand, right? Rav says, I have a pasuk to support me. Shmuel says, but there's another pasuk. So what does he do with that? They both knew of both psukim. The pshat is, it's a mahalach. Everyone had a way of thinking. But Mele, in this pasuk, he saw his support because that was his way. No, but he has another pasuk, that's how he explains that pasuk. It doesn't begin with the fact that the other one forgot about this verse and I didn't forget about this verse. That's not an argument, so that's ignorance. So look at the pasuk and you'll change your mind. Right? That's what people always have to understand. There's a mahalach, it's durich getracht. There was every amayr, every time I had a yisoid, like an axis on which everything revolved. A tzir, there was a hinge, there was an axis through which all of halacha revolved. The pasuk supports it. The pasuk is not the issue. The other person also knows this pasuk. So here is a classic example for this. What's the Havana Eretz Cosmology? And that's the shita of Beis Hillel. We explained earlier in the morning you have to daven every day. Because before Shuv you need Ratzo. Why can't I just go to business? Everybody knows if you start taking your phone before davening and you start answering emails, it's not a good idea. Why? So there's a lot of practical reasons, but if you want the lashon of the Maamar is, never go to Shuv before Ratzo. Whenever you start Shuv without Ratzo, it's going to be a wounded Shuv. It's going to be a broken, it's going to be a splintered, a chaotic, a disintegrated Shuv. I don't mean to make it so abstract, but that's really the nekuda. Because in order, you have to know how to deal with Olam Hazeh. You have to be grounded and anchored in your core in order to be able to go to Shuv. Without the Ratzo, you don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you'll never be able to fulfill the mission. Remember, Ratzo is who you are, Shuv is your mission. You don't confuse the two. When you know who you are, you could go on your mission successfully. If I don't know who I am, then I'm on a mission, I don't realize I'm on a mission. So the mission starts defining me rather than me defining the mission, and it confuses me of who I am. You understand what I'm saying? Huh? Beautiful, yeah. This just came out. It wasn't me. I didn't say this. It's not just remembering who you are intellectually, it's viscerally living who you are. Like we spoke in one of the Shema about Yosef, right? What was Yosef's power? Because he knew who he was, he knew that he was on a mission. If he wouldn't have known who he was, what would he say? He would say, I'm a loser, I'm a nebuch case, I'm a victim, my father hates me, my brothers hate me, God hates me, the world hates me. Look at my life, it's cursed. And he would have been right. His life was pretty difficult. He didn't begin on the top, He began literally in the pits, pun intended, right? One pit and then another pit, talking about somebody in the pits. But he knew who he was. But Mela, when he looked at his brothers 22 years later, he says, don't get depressed. This is a mission. If it's a mission, I'm good. I was sent on a hard mission, but I'm good, I'm fine. You see the difference? It's like the soldier was sent into Normandy, June 6, 1944. Anybody knows American history? Hey, you're from Harvard, you should know. Normandy. I don't know if they still know anything in Harvard. Huh? It should be around June 6, 1944, somewhere in that zip code. Yeah? There was a Jew, an immigrant. He was a Polish Jew, so he came to America, so he didn't know English, so he wanted to become a citizen. So the clerk asked him, which year did you come to America? So instead of saying 1941, he said 1491. So the guy on the other side says, it's a pity, you should have waited a year, you could have come with Columbus. Who they just discovered was really Jewish. Yeah, they found his DNA. It's an interesting story. In any case, how did I get into Columbus? On Normandy.
My mother knew.
Your mother knew, because Jewish mothers know everything. But now they discovered the DNA. That they say they discovered Columbus's DNA and his son's DNA. And there's a lot of Jewish stuff over there. Okay? So we get credit for America too. Baruch Hashem. If you were wondering how important Jews are, we get credit for America too. So I'll call upon him. The soldier who goes to Normandy, and I don't know if you know what happened there, but it was difficult, right? Yeah. and there's bombs, and all your comrades have fallen, and it's a horrible, horrible situation. And we don't have to go so far. You can go a soldier sent into Gaza or Lebanon, and sees everything that's happening there, and sees what happened to its own comrades. And imagine the soldier starts thinking, wow, I'm such a bad boy. My mother and father and the government punished me to send me into this crazy place. Wow, what did I do so bad? And the shame that fills the soldier, I mean, just imagine, right? And how well will he fight his war? And all he's wondering is what makes him so evil to be sent into such a Gehenna, and then he has to prove that he is so evil. Now, it's a funny metaphor, right? But that's what we do. That's what we do. The soul knows he's not evil and he wasn't punished. He was sent because he's a good soldier. That's why he was sent. He's sent because he's the elite, because he's the best of the best. Creme de la creme. That's why he was sent there. Huh? Smetana. Or smetana. Smetana of smetana. Creme de la creme. That's why he was sent there. Is the mission crazy hard? Yeah, of course. But it doesn't delegitimize him. On the contrary, it tells him, wow, look how they believe in me. They sent me, they didn't send anybody else. So when you know who you are, then you can know where you are and why you're there. But if I don't know who I am, if Yosef would have thought that his father hates, if Yosef didn't have good attachment, talk psychological terms, if Yosef didn't have good attachment with his father, right, what would he say? He would say, oh, probably Yaakov planned this. He always wanted to get rid of me. But he spent hours learning with you. Yeah, that was official because whatever. Mizolner Zugen. Yeah, Avos Abonim, he had to Nebuch, and he felt bad because I was a Yosem and I lost Rachel, so he had guilt, whatever. And he went to the social work, and the guy said, you have to spend time with Yosef, he's insecure anyway. Right? He would never be able to forgive his brothers. But Yosef never doubted who he is, so now we can know this is a mission. It changes everything when you know it's a mission versus you. That's the Ratzo and the Shuv. Ratzo is who you are. Shuv is the mission. Without Ratzo, you can't go to Shuv, because then it gets very, very dark. With Ratzo, it's dark, but you're the solution for the darkness. You're not the reason for the darkness. You're the solution. You're the saving grace. You're the Mashiach. You're the Geula. You're the Mashiach. Al tiku b'Mashiach. You're the Mashiach for the darkness. You're the shining headlights. Exactly. You're the salvation. You're the soldier to defeat the Nazis in Normandy. That's why you're the guy saving this world. You're going to save the world. Yosef said, I guess I was sent to save the world. Okay, God, that's what you want. I'm here. Hineni. It's a different Indian. So now the brothers meet him and they're in shame and guilt because 22 years they're eating themselves up from guilt. He's like, relax. This is bigger than you and me. His shuv was so powerful because he never left his Ratzo. So b'meila, what comes first? Eretz Hashamayim. So that's what he says. The b'chinas haratzi tzarich li is kaidum b'chinas hashuv. There always has to be Ratzo before shuv. This is the way. Back to that pasuk in Niv. I told you the whole world touches this pasuk. If God wants, He'll destroy the whole world. He says, "Faket im yasime love liboy." That's Ratzoi. Then ruchav v'nishmasi love Yasef. Then you'll be able to experience the divine on earth. Lamata. Ruchav v'nishmasi love Yasef. The sarusa de lasata of Ratzoi, the arousal from below, generates the arousal from above, which is shuv. K'may shekasav yimasim v'alkein eretz shu lashon Ratzoi kadma l'shamayim shu b'chinas shuv. That's the shitta what Beis Hillel says. Earth precedes heaven. What's Eretz? Eretz is Ratzasa. Ratzoi. Ratzoi and then Shuv. In the Avodah of the day, first davening, then learning, and then mitzvahs. Davening, Shemoneh Esrei, then Torah, then mitzvahs. The Lashon in Gemara is Beis HaKnesses, LeBeis HaMedrash, Hanig ben Minig Derech Eretz. From Beis HaKnesses to Beis HaMedrash, which is the beginning of Shuv. Learning. A person opens up a blad Gemara, opens up a Shulchan Aruch, it's basically Shuv. After you experience the deep davening of Ratzo, you're going into technical machloikasin and pilpulim, but that's shuv. But that's shuv in the Torah. And then there's shuv in the world. That's when a person goes out to their work, whatever their work is. Hanig ben minut, that's Ma'aseh mitzvahs. And you can experience when you daven and the person opens up their soul during davening. Somebody told me from the shir that after one of the recent shurim, he went into the tent to daven, and he felt so much inspiration that he wanted to do pishut yadayim v'naglayim. He wanted to spread himself out on the ground in the tent. He had to contain himself. I guess the people in the tent weren't ready yet for his pishut yadayim v'naglayim. So there could be a real moment of ecstasy, and Ratzi always comes with there's usually grief in Ratzi. Because whenever you feel the source, it's more than grief, it's like a grief with ecstasy. There's a certain awareness of such depth. But the learning after davening, l'cha'ira, brings it down, but that's the shuv that comes after the Ratzi. And then there's the next step, as he says, the mitzvahs during the day. So b'meila, eretz is Kosmology, Ratzi before shuv. That's to be able to open up to the Ratzi. Yeah. Yeah. Because even Hashem Razal Bereishis b'shvil Yisrael shenikra Bereishis v'gam b'shvil HaTorah shenikra Bereishis. So we come back to what he began. The world was created Bereishis for Yisrael, called Bereishis, and for Torah called Bereishis. But Elokim Hashamayim v'saretz hagashmim, and for them he created physical heaven and earth. Because Torah and Yisrael represent heaven and earth spiritually. Torah b'chinas Shuv, that would b'chinas Shamayim, or b'Yisrael b'avidasim and b'sidas nefesh b'chinas Ratzi b'chinas Eretz. Torah is Shuv, heaven, and the Jewish people in their avodah with Mesidas Nefesh, they are the Ratzi, they are the Eretz. V'alkein aidei Torah v'Yisrael dafki yiskaymu Shamayim v'Eretz hagashmim, da'hainu aidei b'chinas Shamayim v'Eretz haruchnim, shu b'chinas Ratzi v'Shuv shaydei Torah Yisrael. So the physical heaven and earth, which represent Ratzi and Shuv and Ratzi, they exist because b'shvil HaTorah b'shvil Yisrael, which is the spiritual heaven and earth. This is heaven and earth within Torah and Yisrael, Torah representing Shuv and Yisrael representing Ratzi, because the natural state of the soul is Ratzi. Eretz, Ratzi Salasis V'tzayin Kaina, it feels separate and it longs to reconnect. Torah is bringing it back. Min Hashamayim Dibarti Yimachim, right? We call Torah Min Hashamayim. Torah is from heaven. What does it mean Torah is from heaven? It's not from earth. God is in heaven, not on earth, because the whole inyan of Torah is Min Hashamayim Dibarti Yimachim. It's a gilui from Shamayim into Eretz. So it's essentially heaven being revealed on earth. That's why it's called Torah Min Hashamayim. Doesn't only mean it's from heaven, meaning it's not man-made. It's much deeper than that. The whole inyan of Torah is a gilui of min hashamayim, from shamayim into Eretz. So that's the bereishis, b'shvil ha-Torah or b'shvil Yisrael, for the Ratzi and for the Shuv, for the Yisrael and for the Torah.
So Torah is Shuv.
Shuv, yeah. Torah is always Shuv. And Yisrael is Ratzi. That's why you need what? Birchas ha-Torah before learning is essentially the Ratzi before the Shuv. You're right, yeah. You're right, yeah. Yeah. This is all heaven and earth now. The Navi says there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, la'asid lavai. Which that's the continuation of the Maamar. What does Ratzi and Shuv mean in the world of Geula? As we're going to see the Hemshech. Everybody have a beautiful and inspiring day of Ratzi v'Shuv. Huh? Vayida, silence during Shemona Esrei. In many ways, you see, right? A whole davening, it says, should be b'kol ram, should be loud, with b'zishira, v'zimra. Shemona Esrei is b'lachash, quiet. Even in Karlin and Stolin, where they scream a whole davening, Shemona Esrei is quiet. L'chayra fakech, Shemona Esrei, you should start screaming. In many ways, that's the difference of Ratzi and Shuv. Ratzi is with a lot of fire. Shuv, there's a silence. And it settles in. So on one level, it looks like it's less exciting, right? It's silent. What happened? It's geschnigen, it's getan. What happened suddenly? Why are you so quiet? But in many ways, yeah, it's a deafening silence. It's a silence of, real dveikus. There's two levels. There's a spilus and there's dveikus. It's like we learned in the Sukkos Maamar Sha'aftem, right? That there's Eish and Mayim. Eish is the Ratzoi, Milmata L'mayla, and Mayim is Milmayla L'mata. So he says, Shemina Esther is the B'china of Mayim. Silence. Because it's a deeper dveikus. It's like you're already there. You're not looking to get there. You're there. Sha'angekommen. So there's a dveikus.
Can't scream in the mikveh. Goes back to the child.
If I haven't seen my child in a few years and I see them from a distance, you scream, ah, hey, right? When you're actually together and you hug each other, you stop screaming. Why? Now you should scream. Now you don't scream. Why? Because you're there. Was schreist du? Like, before that, the screaming represents the drama, the tension, right? The gulf, the yearning, the longing. It's like, I can't believe it.